Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Forever Finalist, Josh Dunkerley, and today we will be going over how to do worn non-metallic metal on the top of this hood here. So, what we're going to want to start with is Rhinoxide, and that's going to be our base for all of our. Most of my non-metallic metals are Rhinoxide base, unless it's pure steel. Pure steel, I will go black and not brown. But if I'm doing any golds or oh, there's a mold line right there. That's okay. We can just get rid of that real quick. If I have any golds or worn metal, I always do that with the brown because it just gives you a better um, base for the rest of the colors. And you can see if you find some mold lines on there every once in a while, you can just remove them later. You just got to make sure you're ready to repaint that area. This is some goofy plastic, so wasn't really looking for all these mold lines earlier. Yeah, see, it's already whoop, just disappeared. Oop, still a little bit of one on that side. I wouldn't be as peely with these, except for this is going to be a showpiece, so I do want this to look good. So you want to get all your mold lines off, especially if you're going to be doing showpieces. You want to make sure that all your mold lines are removed. You will lose points for mold lines. It's the same type of thing as like drilling your barrels. If you're just painting for fun, you don't really need to drill your barrels. But if you're painting for competition, make sure you put a drill in that barrel. They will look for that kind of stuff. You can see I'm not being real super careful with this. This is just our base color, so you just want this, safely all over the whole area. If you have to, 2 thin coats as usual. Just getting these little frame pieces that are holding up this hood here. Give me 1 second, gotta clean my brush. Got some buddies who wanted to see this technique, like Mike from Tabled Miniatures. Good guy. You should check out his stuff on Facebook if you get a chance. I think his last name's Kreider. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Mike. But me and him have been sharing a lot of techniques back and forth lately, and this was one. It's more the dry brushing he wants to see how it's done. But we're just going to go over the whole process. Sorry, Mike. And yeah, Mike, I'm using a number 1 this time instead of like a 00 or 000. It's an Artis Opus brush. They're pretty nice. I like them a lot. I use them for most of my painting now. Especially the Series D. Their dry brushes are awesome. A little shout out for them. Sorry, you can see I got my piece of paper there to make sure I stay on point. It's kind of over top my desk, but in a spot where if it moves, you can see my desk. That way I know I'm in frame. That was a pain in the butt the first 2 times. I wasn't sure how to keep myself on point because it's hard. You start like, pulling it up to your face, trying to look at the miniature real close, and you're like, I can't do that. I got to keep it in camera. we got that whole underside of the hood, so now we're just going to do the outside. And you can do 2 thin coats on this just like we do anywhere else. You can see I'm not being real fancy or just getting it all coated. Just going to get this all over it. Bottom of this hood you can see is, or the bottom of this little blacksmithy shop is a brick, so that's going to be, thinking either probably a red brick, just to go against the contrast against the green miniature. I don't know if all of you have seen the miniature that goes on this. It's you'll see it in the end. I'll put up finished pictures up here, but he's a little green blacksmithy dwarf. It's an Enren master. Fun little mini. I did him in full NMM, and now I'm gonna have to, keep the whole miniature consistent, or the whole base consistent as well. So that's why I'm doing this in NMM. But like I said, I want this to look worn because I don't want this to be all shiny and new. It just wouldn't look right for this old steel hood. I think for this back I'm just going to mainly paint that the stone color as well, so just need to get that top bit of that hood there. Alright, so that's our base, our first layer of our base coat down. You can see it's not too shiny, but it's just Rhinox hide, so it's that very dark brown. I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit it with another layer of that brown color. Can even hit it with the hair dryer. Sorry guys, it's going to be loud a minute. Okay, now I got that. That's that first layer down. So now we're just going to put our second coat down. Like I said, 2 thin coats I always do with my bases because I want my base coat layer to actually, cover everything and get a nice solid color going on across. I don't always 2 thin coats every layer, but definitely my base layer because like I said, the base layers are going to be the undertone colors. You want those to always stay there and be a nice solid color. And I went up and down last time, so now I'm going to go across. It's just how I paint to make sure that it all kind of comes out even. If I'm doing these large surface areas, I go up and down the first time and then left and right the second time. And then BABA select start for that magical, cheat code on Contra. Yep, and you can see I'm just once again just getting this all over. Get up here in the top area. Need a lot more Rhinoxide on my dry palette than I thought I did. Or my wet palette. Dry palette. Good one, Josh. How's everyone's dry palettes working out for them? Pretty terrible. I mean, they're dry, and they don't work well for paint. So there we go. So now that's all done. That's our base coat. Oh, let me get the top of this too. Sorry, not fully finished yet. There we go. That looks like a mess. That's okay. It's just the way it looks while it's drying. Alright, I'm going to hit this again with the hairdryer just so we can keep moving. And I can keep showing you guys how to do this. All my stuff's going everywhere. Those just tuning in, this is the sound of a hair dryer. Just speed drying the Mini. Alright, so now it's pretty close to dry. The next color we're going to be doing, and this is going to seem like a weird color to go up to next, is Thunderhawk Blue. I know, it doesn't seem like the color to go up to if we're going to be doing non-metallic metal, and especially not with brown as our undercoat. But that's the color you want. Now this is where you're going to want a good dry brush. If you have like a makeup brush or a, like I said, the Artist Opus Series D is really nice because we're just going to dry brush these areas. And I'm not just doing a normal dry brush, I do a stippling while I'm doing this because that's kind of what you want while you'll see as I go along with the non-metallic metal. The stippling effect gives it that that beaten and pitted look. So you can see I'm not being real careful with this. I'm just kind of smattering it around, getting it all over everything with kind of a stippling and dry brushing effect. Okay, and now these big front panels here, I'm actually gonna stipple all the way. That's why I really like these Series D or like makeup brushes, because if you're looking right now you can really see it's not just blobbing up, it's kind of like softly going on. Can you see that? Here, let me bring it up a little closer. See how it's just kind of softly layering on? I know down here I did bright, but that's okay because that's, you'll see. But yeah, those areas are not as important to get this nice stippling effect because we're going to go all the way across to do this and keep brightening and brightening. They're going to get about as bright as that is down there. But right now we're just getting stippling across. Oop, a little much. It's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. In fact, it might actually help. because like I said, this isn't meant to look perfect. This worn metal. This is never gonna look. It's gonna have different pitted spots and look beat up and worn. I do want to put a little bit more brown back in there. I'm just throwing some Rhinox hide in there just to dull that down a little, guys, because I overdid it there a little bit. You can always go back and do that. Yeah, this is one I've had a couple people request, because everybody's like, oh yeah, I've seen you do non-metallic metal, but you have that non-metallic metal that's like a beat up pitted non-metallic metal. How do you do that? And this is exactly how I do this. And now you can see I'm dry brushing near the edges to catch those the edges of the plates. So I'm just going everywhere with this. And like I said, you're not trying to create any specific, don't worry if it's not like looking any specific perfect pattern or anything. The more kind of sporadic the pattern is, the more it's going to look right at the end. And like I said, you can see I'm just, in some of these areas, I'm just dry brushing where it's like where the plates meet. Tips and the bottoms. And I'm just stippling the rest. Alright, so that does our layer of Thunderhawk. Oh, wait, need to get this side. See, you want to get all the sides. So I gotta get this in here too. Oh, that's a little much. It's okay. Like I said, you can always just touch her up. Like I said, when you kind of mess up, just come back in, just re-stipple in some Rhinox hide, and it'll bring it right back in line with what you had before. If you overdo it. Alright, so there's the Thunderhawk blue, and if you can see, it already kind of has that worn, pitted metal look, but we're just going to keep going up, and it's going to look more and more like worn, pitted metal as we go. So the next color we're going to go up, and this is once again in the blue family, Rust Gray. Yeah, it's a blue-gray, so now we're starting to get into the gray territory. So you're just going to want to clean your dry brush. All of this is going to be pretty much dry brush and stippling. I'm leaving that little part kind of open because that's going to be where the smoke would come out. So I'm going to paint that like blackish, and might have a little bit of the steam from the thing coming up out of it. Didn't get this top area though with the Thunderhawk, so notice while I'm here looking at the video, I'm like, oh, look at that, I missed it. So I just kind of want to back and forth with some of that Thunderhawk. Get that piece all done too, like the rest. There we go. Alright, now it's got that same steel as the rest. Actually, looks like that's got a little... Oh no, that's actually pitting. That's okay. We can make that look a little more rusted in the end. Alright, so now we're stepping up to the rust gray. Shaking it up a little on my vortex mixer. Just showing you guys the pitted look it's got so far. And as usual, when I'm done, I will go back and take photos so you guys can see what it looks like in the light box. Oh, I might need a new paper towel. Okie dokie. So now I'm getting that rust gray set, like I said. Now, just like we did with the Thunderhawk, we're gonna pit around with the rust gray, stippling. And now we're just going to stipple away. This is, by the way, also how I do my pitted non-metallic metal colors. If you're like doing like a green or something, I will use the dry brush for the first few layers, and then I will just use the main brushes to get the edging and stuff. But once again, you can see I'm just stippling all over with this rust gray, just like we did with that Fenrisian gray, or I mean the Thunderhawk blue. Fenrisian gray is actually our next color. Like I said, we're just gonna keep stepping this up. Like I said, I'm just stippling all over, even these top portions. Alright. See it? It's just all kind of tinged on there. And like I said, you can come by these edges if you want and just brighten them up with the dry brush. Like I said, anywhere the plates come to an end or meet, you want to brighten up a little more for those little bit of edge highlights. You can see with this I am just dry brushing where they are. Alright, so now that's the rust gray. And you see it's just the same thing I did with the Thunderhawk blue. I'm just stippling it all over the place. Even this top area that I keep forgetting to get. It's okay, every time I put it in front of the camera I'm like, oh, there it is. Alright. So now our next color is going to be Fenrisian Gray. And once again, same as every other layer we've done so far, we're just stippling this on. This is where it's going to start getting more into your gray and white region, so you don't want to overdo this one. Just be careful. You want this one to just kind of be very sporadic and, like I said, pitted. Just stipple it very lightly all over the top of the mini. And as you can see with the Fenrisian Gray, when you start doing this, it's going to start looking more like metally and white, because this is getting closer up into that white range. Once I'm done, I'm going to come back and I'm going to just highlight some of these spots, and you'll see. You don't have to like go crazy, but there's a fine line walking with dry brushing where it's either too much or too little. You want to be kind of right there in the middle. Like that. That's perfect. That stippling there is perfect. See how it's like coming off, but it's not like just making big spots. That's what you want. Same thing over on this side. Up on the top. Alright, and now we got the Fenrisian Gray on there. And you can see it's oh, let me get that top portion a little better too. You can see it's starting to get that. It still looks blue, I give you, but it's starting to get that silvery look. And you'll see as we do the next like 3 colors, it's really going to start to walk into the metal range. There we go. There we go. See, now that's all. Got that Fenrisian Gray all over it. Alrighty. And the next color up is going to be White Scar. And we are going to be doing the same thing with the white scar that we've been doing with the other colors, which is just stippling away. Until we get to the actual last little layer, most of this is going to be stippling, guys. But that's what makes it look like real metal. I mean, real metal, especially worn, beat up, old, pitted metal, it doesn't have perfect reflections or pretty shiny edges. It's got that just old beat up look. So now I'm doing the same stippling I did all over, but I'm doing it with the white now. And you can see as I do this stippling with the white, it already starts looking like metal. But this isn't the end. It's gonna, now we're gonna have to bring in some shadows and then go back and pop up some of these spots again. Like I said, any of these edges you want to just brighten up more than the rest. Anywhere it's there's a hair in there. There it is. I'm going to try and keep hairs out of your miniatures. I have a dog, it's a little hard. He's a husky too, so he's like shed. Like I said, you don't have to be, once again, real specific with any of this or have to have it look perfect. In fact, the more imperfect it looks, the better. Gonna add just a little more tinge in here with the white. Oh, it's a little too much. It's okay. Like I said, if it's too much, just kind of brush it back. It's okay. Too much ain't gonna kill you. Actually, I might leave that there anyway, just to have a neat little spotty spot. Oh, that hit the floor. Alright. Alright, guys, let me just do a little bit more touch up with this white, and then I'll be ready to go to the next color. If you have to, because you hit a spot and it went too far, just come back with a little blue and just fix it up. So there you go. That's fixed. Any spots that are too much. Alright, so there we go. That was just touching it up with rust gray to bring it back in tone a little bit. So my next color, and this is going to be where you start really bringing it down into more of a metal range, and it will look really good, is we're going to start washes. So we're going to do a Nuln Oil first. It's our first wash. Just got to stir this up, guys. Give me a second. Washes are a little harder to stir than the regular. You can't really put them in a vortex mixer. It just turns them into a watery mess. I mean, you can, but there's lots of bubbles and just doesn't come out right to me for some odd reason. Alright, so now that we have all of our main colors down, now we can do our washes. Getting out my wash brush. Big brush. Alright. So now that that's all there, just going to get our Nuln Oil wash. See, it got bubbly even just from shaking it. Lawn oil is such a weird... I don't have this problem with a lot of my washes, mainly just lawn oil. And it's not even the glossy one, so I don't get it, guys. There we go. It's a little better. Okay, so now that I have my Nuln Oil wash, I'm literally just going to put my Nuln Oil wash over the whole thing. Not being pretty about it. Just over the whole thing. Like I said, just getting this all over. Alright, and now we can let that dry for a few minutes. Oop, I want to make sure it goes everywhere. Alright, and there we go. Now I'm just going to let that dry. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the imperfections are going to add more realistic look to this pitted metal in the end. I am actually going to let this dry for a second before I hit it with the hair dryer, because the washes will dry funny sometimes if you hit them with the hair dryer. You want to let them dry a little bit themselves and not just force them dry. I'm just shifting it around anywhere I see it needs to kind of be in deeper. It's the thing, some people just set washes and go. You can actually shift them as they're drying to give you the details you want. It's a good thing to remember. Shift washes. Okay, now it's starting to pull where I want it, so I'm just gonna hit it with the hair dryer. Alright, I'm going to have to let it somewhat dry by itself here for a few minutes because it's just not getting all dry. But I hope you could see already it's really starting to have that beaten, worn out metal look. Gotta let that dry for a few more minutes. And try and hit it one more time. Maybe get it quicker. Like I said, I apologize for the hair dryer. I just don't want you guys sitting there for hours while I'm waiting for this to dry. One of these days I will figure out how to loop video together, and then I'll be able to just pause while drying and come back. That day is not today. Alright, it is mostly dry, so now I'm going to go up to the next step. You'll want to wait until it's fully dry. I am trying to show you guys. I'm just going to work in the areas that it is fully dry for a minute until the rest of the areas catch up. Like I said, if you decide to use a hairdryer, you need to turn it on cool and then high or low, but make sure it's on cool because you will melt your miniature if it's on hot. Even at cool, it's not very cool, but it's not hot. Alright, there we go. Now it's dry. This is a comp piece, that's why I wanted it a little more dry. So the next color is going to be Fenrisian Gray again. And now we're going back to our stippling technique that we were doing earlier. Fenrisian Gray needs to be stirred up a little better. Because really, it's kind of like, I just recently watched Darren Latham's masterclass on the Lord of Plagues. I know a lot of people have watched that one recently. But he kind of does the same thing. It's just a lot of it's layering. And the multiple layers give you that realistic look at the bottom when everything's done. But it's those multiple layers of stipples and washes and stipples and washes that he does that give it that real look. And that's kind of the same thing we're doing here, is we're stippling to give it that pitted look. We're just doing it with a faster way of doing it because he had that. He's literally taken like a regular brush with a single point and just do. It's like pixeling, which I mean is great and it works great. But for areas like this where you're not trying to take a year and a half to get that stipple effect in there, just use a nice dry brush or a nice makeup brush. It'll do it. Now I'm sure you guys can see it's starting to look really like metal and not like blue anymore. Got a lot of mess on my white area this time. Normally I try and keep that pretty clean. This is I'm being a messy guy today. That's okay. You can be messy with this. This is the whole point, is to be messy and not be. It's like when I was doing the leather with you guys on that other miniature. The less real pattern you give it, the more real it's gonna look. The more sporadic the pattern is, the more realistic it will look, because in nature it's not all that perfect shapes and colors and stuff. Things just wear out in different ways and wear out in different areas faster than other areas. I know what y'all are thinking. It still looks a little blue. And don't worry. We're gonna fix that in a minute. Alright, so there's the Fenrisian Gray again. And now we're going back up to that white scar. Fenrisian Gray, sorry, not blue. Just looks blue-ish. Alright, so this is the white stippling now. I can actually add a little more than that. All down by the edges, you want it to be brightened up with the tops. Alright. And now I'm going to add my last wash color. The last wash color is going to be Reikland Flesh Shade. And this is going to add some brown tones into the blues, the grays, and the whites that we've got going on in there. And that'll really bring it down into that beaten worn metal look. Yeah, see the bubble layer? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It just gets this weird bubbly layer when you shake it in the vortex. You want to kind of make that layer disappear before you start using your wash. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now I'm going to use the Reikland Flesh Shade. And this is once again just like we did with the black. You just gotta slop this on. You can see I'm just really getting this everywhere. Especially in these deep recesses, because this is going to be more the wash color that you want being everywhere, because this is the what's going to give it that rusted pitted look in the end. So you can make sure you get this like really thoroughly kind of in everything. Don't be stingy with the Reikland. Alright, and now we're going to let that dry. this one I am going to have to let dry for a few minutes, guys, so I will just chit-chat about what I was going to do with some other stuff. This is all going to be some nice cobblestoney. I was thinking like probably pretty similar, like a blue-grayish for most of the cobblestone, a little brown here and there. Got these dirt patches here and there, like right here. And I put dirt all around the blacksmithy because it would pile dirt up around there to make sure that it didn't, sparks aren't going to come out and light your ground on fire. Even though it's cobblestone, I mean, they still put piled stuff up around it. Whew. The rest of this smithy I have is it's pretty cool. It's got like a little billows for the fire and a bucket. The mess bucket you'd put the steel out in. Douse bucket, I guess. It's gonna look pretty neat when it's done. Just getting some of these brushes cleared up while we're doing this. I will hit that with the hairdryer in a minute. I just gotta let it start drying because like I said, otherwise it won't go where you want it to go. The hairdryer will blow it out of the way, and you don't want that to happen. You still want it to look like a wash. It's better for drying paint than it is for drying washes. Alright. Let me move some of this around, and then I will throw the hairdryer on it for a second. This spot here, just pull it down a little bit. Right into there and into that crack. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer so I can just dry it up. That top really is the hardest part to dry. I'm just pulling some of it out with the brush so that it's stop pulling up as much. Now, when you get this close to being done with this, you'll see that you'll have some spots that you can actually start going in with the regular paint. So I'm just taking Rhinox hide right now, and with a 000 this time, I'm just redefining the lines between these bolts and the top of this thing. Because see, they look like they're part of it. You don't want that. So you want to separate them. You can see that. Just Just giving them some separation. I'm going to dry it a little more. Alright. Now the last thing you're going to do for this, and this will really be it, it's two more light stipples. This is not over the whole thing. And then anywhere that you want to go around and touch up, and then it's pretty much done. But that next layer is going to be that Fenrisian gray again. Now this time you want to be a little bit more selective. See how, see how this area here has less of the brown? That's where I want to tinge it up. Like right inside here where the brown hasn't pooled. That's where we want to add this. So like in here. Don't forget to hit your edges just lightly. And here. Like I said, just where the brown hasn't pooled as much as the areas you're going to want to stipple. Like I said, this is your most selective stippling, so don't go crazy with this one. You just want to bring areas that look like they need it back up a little. Because if you add too much of this blue, it's going to start just looking like blue again. So you don't want to do that. You're just trying to give it a worn, pitted metal look. Sorry guys. Just trying to get these little beams here as well. So along these edges, any edges. Alright, and then lastly, it's just going to be a little bit of white again. And then those last bits I was saying that you can tinge up if you aren't happy with like the way a bolt is looking or something. Like in here you can come back and you can add some color around those bolts to give them more depth. Or like you saw me do, adding adding the shadow around those top bolts to bring them, to make them look more like bolts again. But you can see it's really looking like just beat up, pitted old metal. Whew. And then that last color is just your white, and you're just gonna, around any edges where it's really sharp, up here in some of these corners, you can try and get some of the ends of the plates if you want to, and here a little bit, and here a little bit. And then once again, just stippling some. This you can, once you've knocked most of it off, you can stipple it around a little bit. And that's it. That's worn metal. It's not hard. It looks really, really good when it's, you'll see when it's standing next to like the shiny non-metallic metal and stuff, it really, really pops. But yeah, that's it. That's how to make it look worn and beat up and nasty and old metal. And that's it for now, guys. So thanks for tuning in. If you liked it, please subscribe and like, and tell your friends about us. And have a good one, guys. Thanks.